Hello, it's me Luigi Marinus, and today I'm gonna review Onward, Disney and Pixar's first movie of the 2020s. And Dylan Lightfoot, if you're watching this review is for you. Ah yes, I remember Onward. When the first teaser trailer came out back in 2019, I was pretty excited for it, and when I watched it in 2020 I just loved it. But too bad, there were some people hating on this movie, and who would even consider this one of the weaker Pixar movies. But now 5 years later, do my thoughts on this movie still hold up? Well, honestly, yes. While some people may be put off by its concept of fantasy creatures in a modern world, I actually don't really mind it all that much. Yes, I guess you could say that the main characters Ian and Barley could have been replaced with humans and the story would still be the same, and I don't really mind it all that much. I do agree with many people that Soul was still a better movie because it was more down to earth and more mature, but this movie was still mature in its own way. Even though Ian and Barley are teenagers, the story is still so well written as you can relate to the struggles of Ian not having a father. Ian goes to school and doesn't fit in, so he makes a list of all the things he wants to do, like coming up for himself, driving a car, and being just like his dad. He later wants to invite some friends for his birthday, but gets embarrassed by his brother Barley Lightfoot, who is more of an adventurous person. After Ian gets home, he gets a wizard staff as a birthday gift and reads that he could bring his dad Wild and Lightfoot back to life. Barley tries to do it multiple times but fails the visitation spell. But when Ian reads the text to bring his dad back, it works. Barley wants to help Ian, but they messed it up. So they have 24 hours to bring back their dad. They have find another Phoenix gem to bring back the rest of their dad. Now I know some people may think this seems like just another generic quest story, but actually not really. It's not as predictable as people make it out to be, and the place where you think the gem would be might not be where you expect it to be. They go to the tavern of the Manticore, who is apparently named Corey. Ian and Barley want to take the map, but the Manticore refuses, so Ian gives a speech about who the Manticore once was. And I thought that speech was very powerful. I like how the Manticore realized what she did. But then she gets mad and wants to burn the whole place down, so the brothers try to take the map until it eventually gets burned as well. But luckily Barley found the map from a game that a kid tried to solve. Honestly, Ian and Barley really have a good brotherly bonding during the movie. And Barley is either someone you really like or someone you really hate. But to me, I actually loved his character, but I mean, sure, sometimes he can be too over the top or over dramatic, but that's kinda how brothers are. They can sometimes argue with each other. There's also Laura Lightfoot, who has a side plot that actually connects well with the main story and doesn't feel out of place. She takes the Manticore with her to help find her sons. They buy a magical sword that can break the curse, named the Curse Crusher. I like the mom's character because she wants to look out for her sons, and isn't as overprotective as some other Pixar moms. And they also make a callback to one of the scenes earlier on at the beginning of the movie, where she does fitness and say that she's a mighty warrior, and I'm glad they actually make a callback to that scene with her actually becoming a mighty warrior during the climax to defeat the dragon who gets summoned by the curse. That's character development right there. And she was pretty badass during that scene. Ian and Barley also try to practice some of the spells, like the levitation spell when Ian tries to make objects float, or when they try to do a growth spell, he says Magnorgantuan, when Ian tries to grow the can to also grow the gas inside with it. They also try the disguise spell when their dad gets caught by the cops, and they disguise as Cold Bronco. Ian lies about thinking Barley isn't a screw-up, which almost reveal their true selves. This makes Barley upset, and it's kinda understandable why he would be upset. And I can kinda relate to that part as well, since I sometimes think I also screw up some things. Ian and Barley follow the ravens to find the next gem. They find some kind of clue of something that looks like water. They make a boat out of a Cheeto, and Ian asks Barley about which other memories he has about his dad. During the scene he says that he was scared to see his dad because he didn't look like himself. We find out that that's why he doesn't want to be scared ever again. And I liked how Barley explained his backstory. They then come across obstacles that look like something from an adventure game. They then try to find the gem, but Ian gets mad at Barley and argues that they could have found the gem in the mountain the whole time. This part kinda made me frustrated because I wanted Ian and Barley to bring back their dad, and I didn't want them to split up. Ian wants to be alone and checks his list. He wanted to learn how to drive with his dad, share his life with him and be just like him. He then realizes that Barley was the dad he had all along. So he runs back to Barley who found the gem, and they try to bring back Dad, and Ian tells Barley that he wants to distract the dragon that was summoned by the curse after Barley got the gem, and Ian defeats the dragon right after the rest of the dead was brought back. Ian couldn't get up, so he looks up how Barley talks to his dad and asks what he said, and he said that his dad was very proud of who Ian grew up to be. Then the movie ends with magic being brought back into the world. The story isn't that predictable and it's still pretty original. Yes, the world building is a little bit like Shrek meets Zootopia. But it was pretty well executed. I do like how the elves live inside giant mushrooms similar to the Smurfs, which I thought was very funny. It doesn't try to be as hip and cool as Zootopia, but it also didn't really have to. If there's one problem I do have with this movie is that sometimes Ian and Barley can argue a bit too much, which can be annoying sometimes. But honestly, I don't really get why this movie got hated by people like Inside Out 2 Fan 2001, because I think this movie is actually an underrated masterpiece. What I also really like is the fantasy aspects in this movie. I like how at the end of the movie they bring magic back. The humor is also really funny. I thought it was funny when Manticore says something like last name, Manticore, first name, I thought that part was really funny. But I guess I just sometimes like dumb jokes like that. Also, I like Barley as the fearless quest expert, and his jokes can be really funny. I also like how he pretends that his van is a unicorn, where he says something like her stomach is empty when the tank is just empty. I thought the scene when Barley sacrifices Guinevere was very sad and powerful, because I don't know how I would imagine if I lost a van that I cared about so much, but Barley had to do it to escape from the cops with Ian, and I felt genuinely sad for him. I also really like Ian's character, and I think he can be very relatable trying to fit in at school and being scared about driving a car. And as someone who lost his mother at a very young age, I could really sympathize and relate to him a lot. I also really like the animation of this movie. It's probably one of the best animation from Pixar in my opinion. Now don't get me wrong, the animation doesn't look as good as say Coco, Soul, Toy Story 3 and 4 and Lightyear, and even Elemental and the Inside Out 2, but I still thought it was very creative with its fantasy aspects. Like there are elves, trolls and also dragons in this movie. And they are all well designed, and I know they may look a bit like Sony Pictures Animation or DreamWorks movie characters, but I'd still say they look good. It is very sad people don't give this movie enough credit, because I think it's probably the most underrated movie of 2020, and that's why I'm giving this movie a 10 out of 10, with a "that is cinema" quote. But my critique, because I guess some of it can be a bit predictable, but as a whole the movie is anything but. It's unfortunate that people hated this movie back in 2020 and called it one of their weaker movies. While I have to disagree, I think it's one of Pixar's best movies. Maybe not top 10, but definitely top 15 at least. This was my review for Onward, and if you liked my review, don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video.